Hi, I am Ed Miller, and I am running for the City Council for District 3. This is an important election, as many decisions have to be made that will affect our economic and social future for all of us. My responsibility is to do my duty as a serious, honest, helpful council member. I have a doctorate in engineering science. I mention this for two reasons. First, I have a background to understand the technical aspects of the engineering problems that face our city. Such a critical need is required to remove chromium-6 from our water supply, the requirements for a water recycling plant, and the engineering problems in repairing the flume. Secondly, and equally important, I have a lifetime of experience reading and understanding lengthy, complex documents, similar to those that are an integral part of being a council member. If elected, I will serve the best interests of District 3 and the city in which we all live. I first decided to run for the council when a previous council was going to approve a sludge plant in Banning, which would burn human waste that was shipped here from Orange County. I helped write the initiative that stopped that polluting plant from being built. However, in anticipation of the approval of that outrageous plant, that city council rezoned homes near the proposed plant from residential to industrial, thereby making those homes virtually worthless. This problem was ignored by my opponent, Art Welsh, and the majority of the council until council member Don Peterson and I brought this injustice to a vote, forcing a return to the original zoning and restoring the value of the homeowner's property. When I first ran for the council, I promised that I would read everything and devote myself to assuring that the city would be responsible in its financial policies and return to the policy of being open to public scrutiny. I have fulfilled that promise. The previous council had approved a $1.8 million payment for an oil spill cleanup without discussion and, shockingly, without reading a consulting report that stated that the bill was grossly overcharged and that it should not be paid. Art Welsh and the majority of the current council continued to ignore this problem until Don Peterson and I pushed for legal action to recover some of those costs, and the city has received more than $600,000 in repayment as a result of these actions. The Robinson Mine at the eastern end of our city has been running for years, removing valuable rock, undermining electrical towers, generating dust which contaminates the homes of nearby residents and which settles throughout our city. The heavy truck traffic damages our city streets. The mine was not paying for our city for any of this pollution or damage. When I first came on the council, I asked that the council consider a tax on the mine to compensate for these damages. I was told by Bob Batts, then on the council, that talks were ongoing at the mine and I should be patient. After 2 years of such rebuffs, I was finally able to convince the council that the time had come to place such a tax on the ballot. At that time, Art Welsh said, quote, "I have been waiting years for this." Waiting for something and doing something about it are two entirely different things. This tax is expected to bring close to $400,000 per year in revenue into our city for the next 20 years. I was dismayed to see that the process used to obtain bids for the services and goods purchased by our city was done in such a haphazard way, with bids on expensive technical items advertised in local newspapers rather than on national, industry-oriented magazines. As an example, when construction of the new electric yard was being considered, the council was presented with a bid of $5 million. When I demanded that it be re-advertised in construction journals, the final bid was only $3 million. Not that that's an insignificant number, but that resulted in a saving to our city of $2 million. When bids for services are received, A committee of staff members and outside consultants review and rate those bids. I have always demanded that those ratings given by the committee members be available to the council to assure that the rating process is accurate. The city manager recently proposed that the council simply accept his reporting of the final results of that evaluation without revealing the infinite small data of that evaluation process. That, to me, is completely unacceptable. The council cannot abandon its obligation to have oversight of all that is occurring financially in our city. I objected to this proposal and convinced the council to reconsider it, but my opponent, Art Welsh, rejected my idea and voted alone to continue blindly to accept whatever the city manager chose to present to the council. To me, it is amazing that for years the Beaumont City Council simply accepted whatever was told to them by the city manager and never asked for any details. The results of such uninformed trust and neglect is evident to us all. I will not let that happen in Banning. I have been involved in all aspects of the finances of our city. At my first meeting with the then city manager, I stated that the bonds that the city had already issued were at too high an interest rate and should be reissued at the current lower interest rate. When a new interim city manager came, I repeated those points, and he agreed, and over $7 million will be saved in interest because of that reissue of the bonds. In the past, when outside nonprofit groups requested funds from our city, the City Council considered each request without any established criteria and awarded city funds at their discretion. To avoid problems, such as the grand jury investigation caused by funds being given to the Cultural Alliance without oversight, I developed criteria for funding these outside events, requiring financial statements, including the stability of the requesting group, the purpose of the requested funding, how the event will positively affect our city, and requesting documents demonstrating that these funds had been used for the requested service. Compare my concern and concern of financial matters with the record of my opponent, Art Welsh. When he was on the council previously, he approved a $500,000 grant of city redevelopment funds to a developer to build the infamous Banning Business Center, now known as the Home of the Homeless. He never required a completion bond, the standard practice for such developments, nor did he properly determine the financial stability of the builder. As a result, when the project was abandoned by the builder, this has remained a trouble spot for the city, and it will cost the city much more before it is finally torn down, and we will have to start over developing that area. That cavalier attitude about the taxpayers' money is exemplified by the fact that Art Welsh was the only council member to vote to give an extra $30,000 on his leaving to an interim city manager. I could go on with the financial savings I have introduced into the city, but my time is limited, and I want to talk about the disaster called the Village at Paseo San Gorgonio. This was originally promoted as, quote, the jewel of Banning. This project is in the central downtown area of our city. Whatever happens there defines this area and determines the attractiveness of the downtown area for visitors. The developer originally proposed an exciting project, promising boutiques and an area that would attract visitors from Banning and elsewhere. A beautiful drawing of this proposed shopping area was placed prominently in City Hall for several years, and was also used as a selling point for the re-election campaign of those council members. The developer then changed the project completely, removing a promised hotel, replacing it with the county Central Probation Office and the County Central District Attorney's Office. These county offices produce no tax revenue for the city whatever and have an extremely negative perception which will hinder the possibility of attracting other businesses and visitors to our area. This project was then transferred to another developer who then applied for approval by the council. I vigorously objected, as this transfer could have stopped the project at that point. Art Welsh, Debbie Franklin, and George Moyer voted for the transfer. Despite this approval, the new developer, the Vanna Corporation, is in default of the required starting date. The problem is that the County Probation Office wants to add a sealed, protected parking area for their employees. The probation employees would then have protected parking, leaving the rest of us in an area unprotected for both us and our cars. I have fought this project from the beginning and will continue to fight against it. One council member, in voting for the project, stated, quote, "Something here is better than nothing." I believe that our city deserves better than something better than nothing. I believe our downtown deserves a project that will attract residents and visitors, not probationers. Our city must satisfy the state's rigorous demands to increase the amount of high-density housing in Banning. After 5 years of efforts, this present council and the staff produced a plan which finally satisfied the state. The council chambers were filled with residents asking that we ignore the state and that their demands were much too expensive and extensive and would keep Banning with having way too much high-density housing. The council, including me, all reluctantly agreed that we could not do that, as the requirements of the state and the penalties imposed would be just too extreme. But we on the council all agreed that we had rezoned to a higher density, as much area as the city could possibly bear. To me, it is unfortunate that Art Welsh seems to be willing to approve everything that developers want. Imagine my shock and the dismay of the audience at a recent meeting when Art Welsh, Debbie Franklin, and George Moyer approved a request by the Diversified Pacific Company to rezone land east of Sunset Avenue to a higher density. I voted against this change and will continue to fight for Banning to remain a semi-rural community rather than a crowded one. Growth is both inevitable and desirable, as more people bring more amenities. But growth has to be of the type that enhances our city, not simply one that increases and packs together the number of residents. I believe that Banning has unique positive aspects, being nestled between the impressive and beautiful San Gorgonio and San Jacinto mountain ranges. It still retains much of the charm of the Old West, commingled with many modern conveniences. If properly nurtured, our city can remain that, a great mixture of quiet, comfortable, safe living combined with modern services. If you vote for me, with your help, I will continue my efforts for financial efficiency and to work for what the residents of my district want, and to maintain our city as one to be proud of, not a collection of county offices. Thank you.